I recently became acquainted with a couple of women who were trying to follow their dream of going to college and getting a job. And these were from different countries: Algeria, Armenia, the United States. And kind of had to inform them that that avenue of following your dream that way was kind of a closed book now, given the hundreds of thousands of dollars you might expense in tuitions and fees with four-year college, and if you wanted to go on to law school, additional monies there. And then, of course, the competition when you get out for the limited number of positions now as businesses are faltering. And they took a poll of the law student graduates and found that 23% didn't think it was even worth it now. So I had to inform them that I think that's not a very good avenue. And they got kind of angry with me that I was, interfering with their dreams. And I said, well, no, nothing wrong with your dreams. It's just the pathway to getting there is not very good now. And maybe you need to think about creating your own pathway in some other fashion, and also the type of job that you want. Do you want to work for somebody or not? Because if you work for somebody, you might get fired, you might get laid off, you might get passed over for promotions. You're only going to make half as much as if you were self-employed. And, there's so many other reasons to be self-employed if you can do it. But I was willing to mentor them, and so it's a fairly simple process as I've started several small businesses myself, and so that was like that. But it's kind of interesting that a woman in Armenia felt that she wanted to better her life because life here was very hard. And I said, well, what do you mean hard? Because there's a lot of cars on the road. Apparently those people don't have such a difficult time here. And this feeling it's life in Armenia or Yerevan is the capital, is difficult. Well, I moved here a couple of months ago, and almost immediately, I moved here from Oregon, and almost immediately I felt lethargic and unproductive and unmotivated, and I discussed this with another person from Crimea, and she felt the same way. And so I thought, well, let's look into this, because this isn't usual for me. This isn't jet lag, although it's halfway around the world. I had gotten over that. And of course, one might think, well, maybe it rains a lot in Yerevan. Well, it rains a lot more in Oregon, let me tell you. But so what was the difference? So I began looking at the situation and found that in order to properly set your circadian rhythm and your sleep cycle and your energy levels for the day, you need direct sun between 8 a.m. and 12 noon. And that's kind of a study to get things going for yourself. And of course, in Oregon, though it rains a lot, it rains, but it clears. But in Yerevan, it doesn't. It's kind of overcast nearly every day until noon or the afternoon, if it does stop from being overcast. So this was an immediate explanation for possible motivation problems in Yerevan. So one of the things was that your activates your activity and motivation level, of course, is the big four. There's serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, and endorphins. And so the question is, so those can be activated by direct sunlight, but what kind of foods then? If you can't do the sunlight, can you do foods that would assist? Well, of course you can. And so as you can see here, cacao powder, ginger, and then the fruit of bananas, pineapple, plums, pears, yogurt, fermented drinks, cheese, milk, eggs, peanut butter, whole wheat breads, chicken, turkey, red wine, humor, early morning sun, and also there's an electron generator. We'll talk about that in just a second. But so there are some foods that will assist you in counteracting the lack of sunlight. But of course, vitamin D is a big one. You don't have sunlight. Well, so that's one avenue. But the other one that didn't quite explain everything to me. And then on a weather app, I noticed the comparison between Oregon in the morning and Yerevan in the morning is that Yerevan always has fog. Well, the interesting thing about that is that what is the charge of the fog? As you know, fog is really a low-lying cloud in terms of atmospheric conditions. And you have lightning from fog, from clouds. So, there's a charge on the water droplets. So, in turn, what is the charge in the water droplets? Well, for fog, they're positively charged. And most of the dust particles and microbes and things floating in your house are positively charged also. Well, it turns out this is very significant because there are winds around the world that are very well known for centuries now that are positively charged, and they create havoc with the population. For instance, in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, they have the Chinook wind. In San Diego, where I lived, is the Santa Ana, and that's something else to experience. In Israel, in Western Europe, is the Foon. And apparently in Israel, 30% of the population develops migraine headaches and other things during the Foon. And I did read a report that Israel will not send its soldiers into battle during a Foon because it disorganizes people's thoughts. Libya is the Ghibli. Southern France is the Mistral. The Argentina is the Zonda. And in the 1980s, they began doing very specific and concentrated studies on the effect of these positively charged winds. Now, it doesn't really matter that it's a wind, but the wind helps to strip away the electrons of the air molecules and create this positively charged, which is very detrimental to the human being's mood and motivation. And so you have this positively charged fog sitting over Yerevan every morning, okay? And, so one visitor remarked on how, kind of down, lack of activity and motivation was apparent in the society as they walked around Yerevan. And so this is exactly what a positively charged air mass does to a population. So I don't know what to do about that. If you've got these, but of course Oregon doesn't have that. And I just came from Oregon, and yes, and people move out of Oregon because it rains so much. But it doesn't have this. People around Oregon, they're motivated. They're moving. I was there and motivated. I come here, and all of a sudden, nothing. And so it's a very distinct difference in living experience, in mood and everything. I don't know what to do about this pervasive, positively charged air mass that's sitting over Yerevan. I just don't know what to do about it. But, however, there is something interesting that individuals can do, and that's the negative ion generator. And you can purchase these in stores, or Amazon or other places, and you have to be careful about the ozone production. But it has been well studied for many decades. I have known and seen, for instance, banks will put negative ion generators in the bank, and they immediately drop the mistake rate dropped by 50%. Production went up significantly. People felt a lot better just by having a negative ion generator within their living space. And so this is something that you can do in your apartment, in your bedroom. They have different sizes, and you can experiment with these. But producing negative ions in a living space is well documented that it greatly decreases your mistakes and increases your productivity and how well you feel. And that's about the best thing I've come up with to date on the negative ion generators.